Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review Superman and Lois, Season 2, Episode 9. So, for those people who are going to be saving the world in this episode, because we have some pitch hitters coming in, it kind of feels like, hey, how do you feel about saving the world, pitch hitters? What? like, we have, like... We have it where we have to write off Superman in this episode because it feels like in season 2, there's like a lot of just writing off people so other people can be pushed more in these shows, in these episodes. And I'm kind of getting a little ticked off by it. But like when really figuring like the whole like I'm sure a lot of people were exhausted from season 1 and to now go on and just be like, oh my god, we're doing another one of these. Like, how about you just write me off? Like, how about you just go on and figure out a way to just, like, get me out of this episode? I'm just, no. Like, there's a lot of commitments for these characters. There's a lot of conventions that they have to go on and whatever interviews and all this stuff. It's exhausting. So probably they're just like, hey man, like next season, like no, like give me some time off. And they're like, oh okay, well we have to use you in this part and this part, but then after that you can just take your break. You can take your time off. So we have pitch hitters, and of course that's John Henry Irons and Jordan in this episode, so they're kind of more of the focus. The only thing that I thought was very disappointing about the episode is to go on with Jonathan by the end of this, because I thought they were actually going to do something creative with the Jonathan character to really just go on and just feel like it's the same old, same old. How we're still having possibly an entire season carried by this Alley story no longer makes sense to me. Can we wrap this bad boy up? I'm just tired of the Alley story. If anything, I thought this story was like the worst part of the season, and now it's going to have to carry this season, and I'm like, why? Why am I even here? Like, once they killed off Bizarro, I was also like dead inside. I was like, what? Like, so your big threat of the episode is to now be nuked, and now you're having to, like, carry the story between Allison and Allie, or Anderson and Allie. I'm like, wow. just, can somebody just give me a shot of adrenaline for this show? Because I think I'm going to need it. So... It feels like they're still having this show that's also to be carried by Cushing stuff, the Cushing family, but it feels like we finally have a lot of stuff that is to be finally resolved in here that I've just been like, please, can we just finish this up? And luckily they are. Yes! But if we have to turn around and have our characters that are saving the day in this episode, they have to figure out how to make also these same exact characters cry. So that's just thumbs up episode, thumb her up. So, but the Sarah and the Kyle stuff is good. I like that. The Jordan stuff is good. The kind of having the Natalie things where it seems like her wounds are still fresh compared to John Henry Irons, I guess that's an interesting kind of thing to just eat up time. And so, yeah. So with that, I think we're just going to go into spoilers about this one. Really, there is nothing for Lois Lane for her much to cry about in this episode, so that's great. Thumbs up for that one. Because, like, we basically, since they write off Lucy in this episode, Lois doesn't really have much to do. But, like, what she does do, it's, like, thumbs up. So good enough. So let's go on. Let's go to that double 5. It's just time to go on to spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time I can spoil this episode. So this episode should just be called Jordan and Jordan alone, because that's all I give a shit about for the most point. Because there's a part in this episode where I'm like, predictable. Could have seen it from a million miles away, from episodes 20 years later, or 20 years earlier. So let's go on. So at the beginning of this episode, we have it where First Sergeant Aaron Wu, not Lucy, is breaking Allie out of the DOD and is going to slap on the Bizarro suit Allie is to go into this portal. Superman is to go on and hear Allie sneaking into the portal, and so Superman is to put on his super suit really quick and make it to this portal. Allie has already gone through the portal with her arms wide open and making her way into the portal. We have, of course, Aaron Wu that is telling Superman, it's like, well, hey, you aren't going to just easily go into this portal with that suit on. And Superman, of course, is to just be like, well, hold my beer. So Superman goes and does what Superman does for, like, we have to go and redo a thing that Superman has technically done in his past. So how Superman just becomes a lot more durable is because he goes on and spins around with him flying really fast. So we have Superman just flying in a circle consistently. Does anybody remember this whole scene within the Superman movie where he has the Earth go back in time by him flying around in circles? So it's the same thing here, where we have Superman just flying around in this circle in this cave, and then he goes through the portal, and then he's like, nah, as he's going through the portal, as like we have this moment where it seems like all of the stuff that is to be Superman's outfit is getting tethered or torn apart. But then when we have Superman in the other world by the end of this episode, we see that his like outfit is completely fine. So here's immediately my problem with this episode. Did Sam Lane not go on and put any security by the caves? You would think that Sam Lane would have so much security there and would go on and have these guys like, don't let anybody in. Not even if it's me. No one gets into this cave. I don't care who it is. I don't care who they say it is. No one gets in the cave. No one gets permission to relieve anybody unless it's me giving you that permission. And they have to go on and call me during any day of the night to confirm. So yeah, like there should have been a whole lot more protocols, because people just continue to just keep sneaking in to this cave. It's just like Arkham Prison. Like, you go on and you have Joker go in there, or whoever villain is for that comic book, and then immediately they like figure out, well, I'm going to sneak out because I can just easily sneak out of Arkham. Man, how is it that Batman, for a number of years, is to just let these guys just continually slip and slide from Arkham, and he's just like, well, there's nothing I can do. Like, God, you would think that like Batman would figure out a way to just watch Arkham like a hawk, or find somebody who can. And every time somebody breaks out, it's just like, oh, no. Like, there should be a contingency plan. Batman always has a contingency plan for everything, but I guess it's not if anybody's to slip through the cracks of Arkham, heaven forbid. So anyways, I'm spending too much time on this joke. It is what it is. So, and it wasn't even a joke. It wasn't. It was just a little thing. Anyways, a little ditty. Anyway, so Superman goes through the portal and he's gone for a month. I guess that's a real, like, what is he going to be gone for, like, a year now? And then, like, the whole rest of the season, Superman is just going to be gone. Or, no, wait. What we're going to do in the next episode is we're going to focus on Superman for that whole episode, considering Superman was gone in this episode. All of a sudden, Superman is going to be more focused on this episode. The next coming one, probably. What are they going to do? Is it going to be like two different stories going on? The world without Superman and the world where Superman is in? Is it going to be like the Arrow thing now? Where they have two different stories going on? Anyways. So, Superman is now gone. And so now John Henry Irons and Jordan are stepping up. John Henry Irons at one point is to save a plane from crashing into this thing called water. Because, of course, there is to be these propellers on the plane that are to be on fire. John Henry Irons is lifting up this plane as if he's Superman from Superman Returns, or is, of course, Supergirl, because one and the same. So, we can't do anything unique with flying characters. How many times have we seen a flying character have to lift up a plane? It's like, especially in the DC world, it is done way too often because they can't think of anything else to frickin' do with flying characters. So, John Henry Irons has used his fire extinguisher thing upon his suit because here's the thing: if we were to basically be told that John Henry Irons' suit was completely done for because he didn't have this certain ability to power up his suit. Now we're going on and seeing John Henry Irons completely have the ability to use his suit. Maybe solar panels? I don't know. Like, did they figure out some goofy way of, like, fixing this guy's suit somehow between episodes? While John Henry Irons was in the hospital, they figured it out. Whatever. It's just... So, John Henry Irons goes and saves this plane, and then, of course, is to be getting up in the morning to see that Natalie is trying to make breakfast. And she, of course, is a little rough at it, because how many times has she probably made breakfast? So, Natalie is trying to make this secret recipe that, of course, was done in the past by her mother, who, of course, was a Lois Lane from an alternate world, unless you didn't know, if you weren't sure. So, John Henry is like, well, hey, like, it's great that you're trying to make breakfast and all, but, like, we gotta go. Like, how about we just go on and pick something up? And Natalie's like, huh? Like, breakfast! And John Henry Irons is like, no, let's just go on and grab something. Like, come on. Because John Henry Irons has completely forgotten that his wife was even dead. And he would go on later on in the episode and tell Natalie, it's like, well, I just didn't want to remember that your mother was dead. Like, I just wanted to completely forget about it and just move on with my life. Because it seems like John Henry Irons might be moving on to possibly other woman. Wouldn't that be nice? It seems like there might have been a time where John Henry Irons was talking to Lana there. Something might be happening. You don't know. I would be okay with John Henry Irons and Lana, considering technically we'd have Alana with a somewhat Superman. Even though I'm still, like, everybody's like, no! Lana and Kyle forever! Some people may be those people. Or some people might just be like, no, I like that they're broken up. You're a... Whatever. Anyways, so John Henry Irons is to go on and have Natalie go to help out with his campaigning. And so also is the Clark family. So we have the Kents who make we have the Kent family that makes their way to this campaigning thing, because we finally now have to resolve this story of, will Lana get the mayor position? Will Mayor Dean get it? We'll find out next week on Superman and Lois, with possibly Superman actually in it. No, we resolve who is to get mayor by the end of this episode. I'm like, yes. Thank you. So we have, of course, where Jordan is to start wanting to help out Sarah and asking, hey, what can he do? And Sarah, of course, is going on and asking, like, Jordan, it's like, hey, you've been kind of, like, flaky lately. I haven't really seen you lately. And then all of a sudden, Jordan has to leave. He has to turn around and leave after he's talking with Sarah. Um, because if Jordan wasn't already training with Sam a lot lately, and we, of course, have, like, Sarah, who's consistently calling Jordan to get no answer. We have it where Sarah is just kind of like, oh, like, I guess he just has something better to do. So Jordan goes on and is to leave because there is a fire going on, and Kyle, who is to go and try to take out this fire because, of course, he's a fireman. We have a very weird fire situation where it's like this weird fire tornado that's happening in this building. And I'm just like, you know what? I've seen some weird things in the show, but like a fire tornado, or even two fire tornadoes, this makes no sense. This is so bizarre, and we need to understand what this is. So, John Henry Irons, who was also at this campaigning thing, was to go on and leave and help out this fire after Jordan is to go on and save Kyle and fly for a couple of seconds and then save Kyle from this fire situation. John Henry Irons is to go on and tell both Jordan and Kyle to get out of here while he's going to use his fire extinguisher ability to go on and snuff out all these flames. So we have it later where Jordan is talking to Jonathan, because after Jonathan is to also leave this campaigning place, deciding to go door to door to door, because there is some mother that was at this campaigning thing saying like, oh, well, you snuffed out my son's ability to play football because this is his senior year, and he probably could have gotten a scholarship and he could have gotten all these number of other things, but you just snuffed him out. You just made his life eroding beneath him. Eroding. So that's not all what she really said, but like in my mind I was like, yeah. So Jonathan, who's just like, well, okay, like I guess I'm just gonna go on and I'm just gonna walk out of here and I'm just gonna go door to door to start campaigning with people. And so Jonathan is to make his way home to realize that Jordan is all kind of smoked up. He has all has all this like soot all over his face. And so Jonathan's like, "Hey, like you're saving people," and Jordan's like, "Well, yeah, like," and so Jonathan's like, "Well, have you told mom yet? Because really, like, there's one person that you should not be keeping this from. It's mom, because eventually she'll find out, and she's gonna tear into you, like." Especially from Jonathan, who is to kind of go through what he had gone through, but still, like, that's a little bit different. Like, Jonathan had done something bad, or Jordan is using his power to do something good. So we do go on and have Lois Lane figure it out, because of course she does, because we have John Henry Irons that is to kind of tell Lois about Jordan, who's kind of stepping in to try and save people. And so Lois Lane does Lois does meet up with Jordan and confronts him about it. And while also Sam Lane is there also. And we have Lois that is really just telling Jordan, it's like, well, you're not Superman. And Jordan is just like, well, Superman is not here. So somebody has to step up. Somebody has to take the torch. And so Superman may never come back. So like, we can't just let everything just kind of, like, go the way it is. Like, we can't, we have to help. Like, if there's, like, we should have really had Jordan, like, do the whole, like, Uncle Ben thing where it's like, well, great power comes great responsibility. And so Sam is to also tell Lois that it's like, well, hey, like Jordan is really ready for this. Like, I wouldn't, like, let him go on and do what he's doing if I didn't think he was ready. But, like, also Sam didn't know exactly what Jordan was doing, because Sam is telling Lois here, it's like, well, hey, like, I didn't send him out on missions. Like, he is doing this on his own. So really, when you really think about it, like, Jordan is going to do this whether Lois wants him to do it or not. So, like, Lois just kind of has to give in and figure out a way to use Jordan to his full potential here, in the best circumstances. So we also go on and realize that this fire is to also present that there were inhalers for this XK. And so they're like, hey man, we now have to really figure out, like, how to snuff out this whole XK thing. We have to stop everybody selling it. So Lois is to finally tell Jonathan here that he needs to give up who was selling this, because they want to try to snuff out this whole selling of XK. This needs to stop. So Sam, of course, is telling Jonathan that whoever is to sell this, or whoever was to sell this from Jonathan, Sam is guaranteeing, like, Scout's honor and all this jazz, that whoever this is will get immunity, that they won't go into any jail time, that they just want to know who it is. So Jonathan is going on and, like, are you sure? Like, are you double sure? Are you double secret sure that this person won't get in trouble? And Sam is like, believe me. So Jordan is to finally reveal that Candace was the dealer, and so we immediately have Lois, who goes into, like, journalist question person, and is to start to rattle off, like, okay, who was your seller? Where, of course, was this guy going and picking stuff up at? And so on and so forth. And so Candace is to be all apologetic and all this jazz, and so I'm wondering if in the future Lois is going to tell Jonathan to no longer, like, see Candace anymore because she's a bad influence, or some other thing like that. Or maybe Lois will go on and be like, well, Jonathan, I completely understand why you didn't like, say who this was, but still, like, bad influence, yada yada yada, you should break up with her. Because I'm assuming that's either way it's going to probably play out that way. Anyways, so we have Sam, Lois, and Jordan, who go into this car to find, of course, this facility that is to have XK in it, and they're selling it, and their inhalers and all that jazz. So both Sam and Lois are driving up, and we have Sam who's asking Jordan, it's like, well, it isn't possible that your X-ray vision hasn't come in yet, has it? And Jordan's like, no, I'm sorry. And so Sam is like, well, okay, well, we need to go on into this, like, into a window of this location and spot to see if it's possible that we can confirm that they're selling XK here, because we have to have evidence. So Sam and Lois are to make their way to one of these windows, and Lois is kind of taking pictures, and Sam's like, that's not what we need to do. Like, we already know that they're doing this, so we don't have to confirm this. So as they're both walking out, we find out that there is a thug there that is to be on XK because he has heat vision blaring. So Sam and Lois end up getting rope tied, and here's a funny thing. So Lois is to go on and mention that the way of which that this rope is to be tied, that they're not really going to get out of it. And Sam is like, how many times have you been tied up? And Lois is like, a lot. And I actually like that. That was actually funny because it's like bringing up how many times Lois has probably been handcuffed, tied, all kinds of things. You would probably think at some points that Lois would have something to get out of most situations where she's being like especially cuffed or something like that. But like it just kind of gets the fun part of this episode. So we of course have it where both Sam and Lois are realizing that they really do need to activate Jordan here. That like this guy has powers, we have to use him in this situation to rescue them. So Lois of course is telling Jordan, it's like, well, hey, like Jordan, like we really can use your help because we of course know that Jordan is using his super hearing the whole time, so he's like, yep, like I know exactly what's going on in here. So like Sam of course is to interrupt Lois, and Sam is to give Jordan this information of where exactly they are at, and is to try to like tell him how many thugs are in there and all kinds of information that is going to really help Jordan, so that way he won't come in there very surprised. So we of course have a thug that is going to shoot Sam, and Jordan conveniently comes in there at the right time to freeze up this guy and knock him out. Then all of a sudden there's another guy with his heat vision as Jordan is possibly going to free both Sam and Lois, but all of a sudden we have this heat vision coming in, and so it seems that Jordan is to be able to stop time here, where it seems that Jordan is moving so fast that he can technically block this heat vision. So it seems like Jordan is starting to get some much more interesting abilities that are really going to help him out here. But like in my mind, I'm possibly thinking, when is this going to at some point get snuffed out? Where all of a sudden, oh, Jordan isn't as good as what he was before. Maybe he's overexerting his power. Because really, when it comes down to it, wasn't there a time where supposedly Jordan was going to lose his power completely? And like writing, right? Writing. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's all of a sudden changed now. Maybe all of a sudden that's different. Maybe they realized that that was a mistake, that they had kind of painted themselves in a corner. So Jordan goes and is to also take out the other thug after the whole heat vision thing comes in. And so Jordan, of course, rescues both Sam and Lois, and they get the heck out of there. The DOD is to sweep through the whole area and is to kind of wipe clean all of XK. So Jordan and Candace are going on and walking home, and we all of a sudden have it where Jordan is having this headache. Mentioning that, of course, that he is to have, I guess, looked at computer screens all day, because, of course, he's doing online classes. Maybe he's getting headaches. I'm like, like, so you and me are one of the same. Like, I usually tend to get migraines from, like, just kind of looking at certain lights all day. Like, I'll get migraines fairly easily. So, yeah, like, hence why I would go on and tend to wear, like, sunglasses and stuff like that from time to time after even taking migraine medication. It just happens a lot. So, but we go on and we have Jordan, who is to have this headache for a reason. So, and we also have it where Jonathan is talking to Jordan, and after Jonathan is to get home, And when he like mentions about um, Jordan going on and using his powers and how great that is, Jonathan also is to mention that nothing is really going to be good enough right now for him going on and taking all these online classes and to go on and do this job and stuff like that. Like, really, a lot of people are still going to see Jonathan as this guy who had still like killed a lot of people's football careers, and I'm just kind of waiting for there eventually to be some comeuppance. If especially we had technically some words being thrown around in this episode, I can just like I can't wait for there possibly to be some real random ramifications in other episodes towards Jonathan kind of snuffing out a lot of people's possibility for either scholarships or possibly a lot of people saying like, well, hey, like I already went on and like paid for this season of XYZ sport, and now I'm not going to go on and do this sport. Like, and so like even if Jonathan does go back to school one reason or another, because like they kind of have to go on and wait for some cool heads to prevail kind of thing, still like Jonathan is still going to be shown as this druggie, and maybe all of a sudden there's going to be like some repercussions from that. So anyways, so we go on and we have Kyle. Kyle is to have gotten hurt at work, and so Lana, Sarah, and Sarah's sister are going to the hospital. So it seems that Lana, even though she's really busy, is to technically make time for Kyle, but not a lot. So it seems that Kyle is wanting to try and leave this hospital. And Sarah's like, well, why are you leaving so quickly? And he's like, you know what? I think I'm possibly fine. Just some bumps and bruises. So Alana is just like, well, okay, like we're really busy. I'm sorry, we gotta go. So Sarah goes on and meets with Kyle and is to realize that Kyle is bleeding from his back because I guess he had gotten severely burped. So Sarah's to go on and put this fresh bandage on her father's back. And so Sarah is to confide to her father that it seems that Jordan doesn't really have time for her right now. And so she's kind of contemplating what to do with that. And Kyle is like, well, like, think about me and your mother. Like, I didn't have time for her, and look what happened. Like, or I didn't make enough time for her. I didn't, like, make her important in my life, and look what happened between both of us. So, like, don't have Jordan, like, treat you as, like, second. Like, go on and, like, make him realize how important you are to him. So, that all of a sudden is to immediately have me just go like of course this goes this direction. And so we have Sarah who's to spend some time with Natalie. I'm like, here we go. Immediately I'm like, here we go. So Sarah is speaking with Natalie, and Natalie is mentioning that John Henry Irons is, of course, just not even thinking about Lois's death. Alternate Earth Lois. And so we have Natalie that's just kind of frustrated that John is kind of neglecting this whole anniversary. And Sarah's just telling Natalie, it's like, well, hey, like, how about we go on and we honor her? How about we go on and make some kind of like some kind of like thing to just kind of honor her? Like, hey, do you have a picture of your mother? And Natalie's like, no, I don't, even though she technically does. So Natalie just kind of walks off because there's no way to like. There's no way to do what technically Sarah wants, so Natalie just kind of walks off. So, and I'm like, here's where we're gonna have possibly both Sarah and Natalie things are gonna go on and they're gonna end up having a relationship because already they've written out Audrey, so all of a sudden they're gonna take out Audrey and just say that she's like off camera, so they've already given up on that character, and so they're gonna slide in Natalie, and like that's probably what's gonna happen, right? It's gonna be that they're good friends though. Like I'm sure it's not gonna lead to anything right away. It's just gonna be that they're good friends, and that's all that I would like that. If Sarah and Natalie are really good friends and they hang out a lot, I would be completely fine with the way that this story would write itself, because I'm sure it will. So, eventually, by the end of the episode, we find out that, okay, like the votes are in. Lana is to find out whether she's going to be a mayor or not, against Mayor Dean, who isn't even in this episode. Lana is campaigning against nobody. Isn't that great? So, all of a sudden, we find out that Lana is to actually win being mayor. And so, we have at points in time when Sarah is talking to Lana about Kyle, and Sarah is telling Lana here that's like, yeah, like, Dad isn't, like, living in the best like a place, like he doesn't have even much furniture, and Lana is just like, well, like that's sad and all, but like I really can't think about that right now. Like I'm doing this whole mayor thing, and we have it immediately in our brains that Lana is to possibly move on and maybe even have another horse in the stable. We don't know. So, and maybe it's going to be John Henry Irons. Wouldn't that be nice? Like, hey, it makes a lot of sense. They were talking before. Now all of a sudden we can kind of start, like, kind of winding up this story. Both Sarah and Natalie have had a lot of like friendship time, anyways. So maybe they'll become sisters forcibly. But again, I think a lot of people are still on the fence about like whether or not Lana should move on. But anyways, so after Lana is to find out that she is to become mayor, and she is to pop bottles and to say that everyone's hard work has panned out, and so everybody is kind of coming back into the fold. John Henry Irons was to also realize that Natalie is kind of ticked off about the fact that John Henry Irons isn't going on and trying to remember Lois Lane, the Lois Lane that they know from this alternate Earth. I think really because also John Henry is realizing that there's another Lois on this Earth, that's possibly for him how he can be comforted by realizing there is another lane here. Like, so technically, yeah, he's not getting the woman he loved, but he's getting woman he loved adjacent. So I guess that is to fit the bill for him, where still we don't have much moments where both Lois Lane and Natalie are really together, even though Lois was to say, it's like, well, yeah, I'm going to go on and spend more time with Natalie. Yeah, that never happens. That never happened. What a liar, liar, pants on fire. Yeah, I'm going to spend more time with her and just kind of comfort her for the fact that, yeah, like in some way I'm technically like I'm gonna be her friend and I'm gonna be here for her, but I can't be there as her actual mother. So yeah, that never happened. So Natalie is talking to John, and John is like, well, I wanted to completely forget that your mother was dead. And I'm like, man, that's kind of harsh. But John is trying to move on, and Natalie, all these wounds are still fresh. So John is to realize, like, well, hey, like, maybe I should go on and try to comfort Natalie with kind of like going and have this kind of like celebrating uh, Lois like being in our lives somehow or another. So John Henry goes and has this video that he is to like see beforehand, and he starts crying and bawling his eyes out. And then he goes on and is to share this video with Natalie, showcasing her being born. And so I was like, oh, that's nice. But then again, I'm just like okay, we have like characters that have to just cry in this episode. Speaking of crying, so Jordan is to make his way back to find out that Lana, of course, is to be this thing called a mayor now. And so Jordan is trying to spend some time with Sarah here. And Sarah, of course, is to now do this thing called break up with Jordan. Sarah is to go on and give Jordan this necklace back, and is to just like, hey, I'm not going to come second anymore. Like, you're never there for me. And Jordan's like, breaking up with me? And yeah, they break up. And I'm like, I already knew this was coming. I already like, I knew this was going to happen. Like, we could already have, like, they really had to go out of their way in this episode to give Jordan like a reason to not be with Sarah. But we already saw the writing on the wall episodes before that this was going to happen. But now they have to like really chime up a really interesting way for how these two are breaking up, which we already knew was going to happen anyways. So at the tail end of the episode, we of course have both Jordan and Sarah, or Jordan and Lois, getting my names confused. Lois is to try to comfort Jordan as Jordan is to showcase this necklace to Lois and say like, yeah, me and Sarah broken up. It's like, well, fine, go on and Jordan, just go on and find another superpowered woman and just like marry that girl. I'm hoping we don't have like the one Smallville thing where we had the one blonde girl that ended up like marrying Clark Kent, and then she had like superpowers too, but then she ended up getting killed off within like X number of episodes. That was actually my favorite character, and they killed her off, and I was just like so mad about that episode. I was like, oh my god, here's a character that I actually liked, and they snuffed her out. To just go on and just be like, well, we gotta somehow bring back Clark and Lana for the 18th time. Like, come on. Like, that was actually a good story, even though, like, we had Clark dipping into some ex-kryptonite and his parents being just ashamed about Clark. How could you go on and get married? Like, a marriage is a very important event, and you just quickly just done away with it. How could you, Clark? Same Clark. So, maybe both Superman and Lois just ran off and got married. Maybe they didn't have an actual ceremony. I don't know. Anyways, pushing on. Yeah, they did. You could see it in the pilot episode. Yeah, whatever. You could see the whole thing. It happened. Anyways, they should have just eloped. It would have been great. So, all of a sudden we have Jordan coming in with a biker with a biker jacket, thinking like, oh, this must be a brand new Jordan. He's gonna have this whole new like style to him for some absurd reason. And then all of a sudden we see like, what? Oh, it's Bizarro Jordan. Oh, great. So here's the goofy thing. So Superman couldn't make it back from Bizarro World, but Jonathan could? So Jonathan is mentioning that like Superman is having some problems on Bizarro World because we see Superman who's just kind of in fear of something coming, but heaven forbid we really know what exactly that is, because Q Superman just going, oh, and then like the episode ends. We also had the moment where Sarah was decide that now she wants to go on and just live with Kyle, and she has this sleeping bag and all these arrangements, and she's like, you know what, like I'm just like, I think Sarah's just kind of exhausted with living with Lana, because like Lana right now is very just focused on Lana, and that's really it. Um, and so Sarah just kind of wants to go on and be with a parent that is kind of there for her right now, and that technically is Kyle. Kyle is also going on, and every time Lana is at some place somewhere, like doing some meeting or doing something, Kyle is always in the background, just kind of clapping or trying to support Lana, even though he's kind of doing it in the shadows. Having a shirt that says "I voted" and stuff like that for this episode. So, hopefully, most of this episode is technically covered by me, and plus, already I've been spending 45 minutes talking about it. So I should probably get the heck out of here. If there's anything that I forgot about, let me know in the comments below, because I'm sure there's a billion things that I did forget about. Because immediately once I probably stop this recording, I'm going to remember 50 different things that I forgot to talk about. So, I think I'm okay about this one. Because this one seemed easier to do than others. Because in certain episodes, there's like a billion things going on, and I'm like, how do I dance around everything? Um, but this one seemed a little bit easier to do at some points. Not perfectly done like the episode, because I never do those, or I kind of paraphrase, but at the end of the day, F it. Queue up next week. If there's possibly anything that I probably forgot, there might be a rebuttal going on. Um, but let me know in the comments below how you felt about Superman and Lois. Probably a lot of people probably think that I'm too harsh about this show. Probably a lot of people would agree with what I have to say. So there's all kinds of rungs of different things. A lot of people probably go out of their way to feel opposite opinions about shows, of which that I have, because a lot of people are like, God, don't you like any of these? Like, I'm kind of wishy-washy. Like, I feel like very wishy-washy about these shows. Like, I can give them a thumbs up, but I have problems about them. Because I was kind of hoping, like, because in one kind of promo for Superman and Lois, they're kind of building Jonathan up as getting this kind of new thing about him that is going to be very interesting. Like, as if, like, Jonathan is finally going to come into having powers, but really just instead we just have Bizarro Jonathan. That's not what I wanted. That's not. It's like that's really just saying, like, well, hey, like, because we can't get the Jonathan that we actually want in this show, now we're just going to get Bizarro Jonathan, so we can possibly get a Jonathan we want. So that's not uh, that's not on the up and up for me. So I'm gonna get out of here. Bye, buddy. Bye, buddy.